How do you feel?
Huh. Well, I could say good afternoon to the members of the Bermuda Construction Safety Council. Appreciate this offer, this invitation to share. I think the idea that I have of sharing is more of sharing our heritage and the history of the Bermuda St. Kitts Nevis connection.
Yes.
And maybe through that story, I'm hoping that it will provide some resilience in our way that we see the future, because the people who we talk about in my St. Kitts connection came from difficult situations, and they made us who we are today, and that's why we're here.
Yes.
So I just want to share a bit of the history and the connections, and maybe give us some hope that our forefathers did it and they survived, and we can too. Okay? So really, if I step back in time, to understand the connection, we must walk back in time and understand the history of the islands. And what I'll do is just give a brief synopsis of some of the ways that we are connected in our history. Bermuda was discovered in 1511 by Juan de Bermudez. In 1609, the Sea Venture crashed on the rocks, and by accident, the English realized that this island existed, and by 1612, they sent back a group of settlers, about 56 settlers, to make Bermuda their own, a British island, and so that's why we're British today. St. Kitts was settled by Arawaks and Caribs, native Indian who came through from South America and settled throughout the region of the islands. And Columbus arrived in 1493, Christopher Columbus. He arrived in 1493, and Sir Thomas Warner, the British representative, arrived in St. Kitts in 1623, and from there on, St. Kitts was also made a British island. The French arrived thereafter as well, and so the island was shared by the French and the English, and they realized that the native people were going to be a threat, and there was a massacre of them in 1626. The French and the British joined together to get rid of the Native American Indians that were settling in St. Kitts. I share all of this because I wanted to share the history and the development of the islands. Of course, once the British and the French are in, the focus is on building the economy and using it to gain wealth. And the first focus was growing provisions, ground provisions, to be sent back to England or to be sent back to France. There was no gold and no silver mines in St. Kitts or Nevis. But they used the island, which had a rich soil because they're volcanic islands. The soil was very rich, and they used the islands to grow food. Eventually, with the onset of slavery, in the mid-1600s, they focused on planting sugar. So today, St. Kitts is Sugar City. Everybody knows it, or in the Caribbean at least, they know it as Sugar City. And St. Kitts, for many years thereafter, produced sugar in abundance and sold to England and to the Americas, and profited, or helped the plantations to profit from the sale of sugar. However, other countries, larger countries, began to also grow sugar, and this meant that St. Kitts began to get competition. And Britain began to buy their sugar from other places where they could get it cheaper and they could get it in abundance, such as Hispaniola, such as Dominican Republic, such as Puerto Rico, Cuba, Brazil. They buy the sugar cheaper, and so there was a struggle. Emancipation takes place in 1834, And with emancipation, the people realized there's no reparation being paid to the slaves to help them to get through the opportunities now, or the ex-slaves, the opportunities of building their lives on the island. And so there are masses of blacks that are without a job. What can they do? Life is in destitute situation where the country isn't making a whole lot of money from sugar plantations anymore. What can we do? Of course, the ships that sail in between the islands were looked on as a rescue point. And many Kititians and Nevisians went off to Cuba, to Hispaniola, to Santo Domingo, to Brazil. They went to find work, to survive. And that was their opportunity, their first movement out of St. Kitts and Nevis for survival. They arrived, they arrived and settled in those places on short-term basis, and they sent their monies home to help their locals. Now, Bermuda began to advertise. I think Bermuda was advertising around, I want to say the early 1800s, the late 1800s, advertising for industrious labor. And Kititians heard and saw opportunities for moving. They recognized that they could move easily between the countries because there were cargo ships sailing from Canada right down through the Caribbean. Those were the lady boats coming down from Canada through the Caribbean, picking up goods and taking it either back to Canada or to the US on its way, stopping in at all of the islands. And St. Kitts and Nevis became that central point where people could get on the boat and maybe get off in Bermuda, maybe get off in the United States, maybe get off in Canada. And in Canada, it would be in Halifax, okay? And so this went on for many years. I could tell you that they traveled along the Gulf Stream, which is where we are connected, here in Bermuda, where we're connected with the Caribbean. It's the Gulf Stream that brings the hurricanes. It's the Gulf Stream that takes cargo, our ships up. It's the Gulf Stream that makes Bermuda the northernmost coral reef. So it is that point of relationship that began with the Caribbean way back in the mid-1800s. And it continued on once Bermuda needed industrious laborers to build the economy and to make Bermuda more modernized. They wanted people to come in to build forts, to rebuild the forts, to rebuild the docks in Hamilton, to work in dockyard at the British site that was there. And so Kititians and Nevisians got on board. Slavery was ended, times were hard in St. Kitts, and they came to Bermuda and they settled. So we've got a number of Kititian Bermudian connections here. If you don't mind, I would take a moment to just share with you some of the names. And there are many names, and might be that it might be some of your relatives, but I want to share with you some of the names. So bear with me, because it's a ton of Bermuda names that have Kititian connections. The Augustus family, the Amories or the Amories, the Brown spelled without the E and with the E, Benjamin, Barclay, Byron, Baisden, Bridgewater, Blacks, the Rochester family, the Patrick family, Charles, the Christopher family, Liebert, Keynes, Davis, Cannoneer family, Gishards, Douglas, Hendricksons, Dublin, Glassford, Edwards, Francis family, Taylor family, famous, Poxon family, Grant, Godwin, the Otleys family, Gums, Jeffers, Galloway, Jones, Listers, Mortons, Porn, Lewis, Phipps, Paris, Matthew, with the S, without the S, Mills, Maynard, Nisbets, Ross, Rogers, Seaton, Simon, Simmons, Simon spelled with the Y, Simons that's spelled with the I, Thomas, Terrell, Hodge, Hutchinson, Richards, oh no, not you, Esdale, Horton, Harris, Rebane, Peets, Tuckett, York, Wade, Warner, Woodley, Webb, with the double B, E, as well as without that double B and E. Jacob, Carey, Charles, Archibald, Woods, Adams, Govier, or Govier, Morris, Weeks, Franks, Bradshaw, Season. When you think of it, those are many names, Bermudian names, that are in your telephone directory. And if you travel to St. Kitts, you'd find much of a similar listing of names because the connection is there. Okay? So, the lady boats bought numbers of people here, and they came in and they worked, and they settled here, and they settled in Pembroke, in Devonshire, and in Somerset. And in many of those places, you find the St. Kitts Bermuda connection still very strong. It is almost fair to say that many of the houses that were built in those parishes were also built with Kittitian and Nevisian experiences. And I tried to find a bit of information on that. And talking to Mr. George Leon Burt, who is one of our master construction builders here, he said the Nisbets, Ifa Nisbet's father, was one of the construction bosses that built many of those houses along Parsons Road. Right. And so it was wonderful to hear. And where is he from? From St. Kitts, in fact, from Nevis. Okay? And so the connection has been there for many years. Many families arrived with very little, but they worked hard and they provided for their children. There remained a strong sense of community with them. I think we still have it in some cases. It is very true to note those houses that were built in these parishes were possibly built by Caribbean folk. And I want to say that not just Kittitians and Nevisians, but Jamaicans, Trinidadians, they came in around the same time, settled and made business for themselves and for their families in order to survive. Okay? Let me see. Today, we reflect on things that we share with our Caribbean roots. We share food. We share family ties. Children's games. You know the games, pitching marbles, skipping, hopscotch. Yes. I'm sure you did it in your country. Definitely. I'm sure you did it in yours. I'm sure you did it in yours as well. We did it in St. Kitts. People brought them up. Their children learned these things and carried on. Calypso, gumbays, carnival, limbo dancing. Those came through with our Caribbean people that came and settled here. Friendly societies, gift clubs. The friendly societies helped the destitute to save their money, helped the Caribbean people and anyone else who was in their neighborhood to save their money. And they did a gift club. And those people would receive that money at specific times, maybe in times of dire need, but also in times of Christmas and birthdays where the families wanted to have celebrations. That gift club money would come in handy for taking care of that business. Okay? So friendly societies and gift clubs, were the things that helped to keep this community spirit alive among our people. And I want to say that they came in and they worked hard as maybe the ladies as servants in houses. They worked as caretakers for people's children. The husbands maybe worked as carriage drivers in the times when we didn't have cars and they depended on delivery of goods. They worked as dock workers. They worked as masons and blacksmiths and carpenters. They were not afraid to struggle and to work hard and save their monies, but they instilled in their children the importance of education. They may have come in with little, and they may have had to work really hard to make their lives here, but they instilled in their children the importance of education. And so they made sure that their children and their grandchildren had the chance to go to school and get a level of education that made them become leaders in the community. And quoting from Mr. Honorable Chris Famous's research, he shared a number of House of Assembly government leaders that I want to just share with you. Freddie Yearwood, he was a wealthy Kittitian man who settled here, who became involved in business and housing. I think he was on one of our coins, money, dollar bills. Dr. Wilbur Warner, Wendell Brown, Robert Wilson, Joe Mills, Arnold Francis, Canon Nisbet, Dame Lois Brown Evans, Florence Maxwell, who was a Webb, Charles Webb, her brother, Freddie Wade, Craig Cannonier, Walter, Dennis and Terry Lister, Alan Douglas, Nikki Saunders, Shonette Wolfe, Jason Hayward, Mariko Thomas, Elizabeth Christopher, Coach Trott, Wentworth Christopher. All of these were prominent people in our community who we look up to today. And it's their parents that helped to make the way for them to be who we are and to celebrate who we are today. If I could just close, I want to say that, and let me find my note. I want to say that these specialists and parliamentarians played a major role in making modern-day Bermuda. Today we stand proud. We stand tall as we reflect on the achievements of our ancestors who gave us a foundation of strength, knowledge, and grit to overcome and succeed. And today our place is successful. Bermuda is successful because the generations have worked hard. Yes, we're struggling with the COVID crisis right now. I believe we will come through. The older generation reminded us that we've got to work together. We've got to stick together to make our island home the success that it can continue to be. One final bit, if I could share about St. Kitts today. I don't necessarily want to push my home country, but I know that in St. Kitts there is a growing opportunity for tourism. They came from sugar, they had to find a way, they chose tourism. And it's worked for them. It's helped the country to grow, it's helped the country to become modernized, okay? It is 3 times the size of St. Kitts, but it's mountainous, it's volcanic. Nevis is 36 square miles, so both islands are larger than St. Kitts. And if I were to put a plug in, St. Kitts is being very modernly developed, and there's always opportunity for growth. I'm sure you could go online, you could see how many hotels are being built. Yes, COVID has threatened the economy just as it's threatened us here, so there's a need to rebuild and to refocus the economy there, but they're going to work hard, just like we're going to work hard. They've got universities stationed there, Ross Veterinarian School of Medicine, the Windsor Medical School, the University of Medicine and Health Services where they train nurses. These are foreign companies that are settled there, bringing in business to the country. They've got vacation properties. They're building like Bermuda is building, and they're building with water tanks underground, as Bermuda is skilled at doing right now. So there's knowledge that you have that you can share with our Caribbean islands to the south. There's citizenship by investment. If you are wealthy, you can go and invest your money there, and there are opportunities there for you. They host a number of events that draw people in, celebratory events, of course, carnival, music festival, cricket, Latin festival, because there's a large growing Latin population there. So there are activities that draw people in. We can learn from each other. We can learn from the South, they can learn from us here in the North, and we can help each other. Our roots are connected. Let's grow together. Let's rebuild together. Thank you.
Very good.